Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, securities analyst, and advisor, Morty Davis is a Wall Street legend. In addition, Mr. Davis is an outstanding economist and highly articulate, incisive, and very entertaining political analyst and strategist. He's Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical economic and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the news making the headlines is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Good evening. Good to be back with you, my beloved partners in this podcast. My cohorts. You add so much to the essence of the program because you open my mind to new ideas, even the ones that sometimes and I initially feel they're unfair, you're criticizing me too much. But then when I get a chance to review what you're saying and think about it, I find merit in everything that all of you say. So just taking criticism as something hurtful is contrary to how you grow. You should learn from everybody's input, unless they're just being deliberately nasty. But you're always, even when you're critical and disagree with me and have strong opinions, you present your case in a positive way, and I appreciate it, and I become more educated, more knowledgeable, more intelligent, and thank you for all of that. And some of you even say really nice things about it. So I won't apologize for that, but I really love you. Thank you so much for your participation. You're the ones that make this podcast really worthwhile. So now, without further ado, I want to start off by apologizing, as I always do, because inevitably this program, this podcast, deals with the news of the week. And the news of the week, by that I mean the headline news of the week, the ones that they break up your listening to the network channels or the cable channels because they're so important, they're announced. Or the ones that are so important that make the front page of the New York Times or the New York Post or the Washington Post or the monthly magazines. And inevitably, they can't help but impose aggravation, disappointment, not only what's happening here in the United States, but in the whole human race, because all of the headlines and all of the breaking news and all of that the media finds worth focusing on is, I found, inevitably very depressing, very sad commentary about our fellow man, of myself, of others, because the media only picks up stuff that's so dramatic in a negative way. There's lots of dramatic things that happen. Somebody has twins and they're born healthy and well, and the mother's well, and they came home from that. That's pretty dramatic when you think about it. Out of a nothing comes something. So But that doesn't ever make the headlines, nor does somebody giving $100 million to some worthy cause. Dell of Dell Computers. I'm proud of Dell because he's a fellow Jew, and he gave a donation. He announced with Donald Trump that every new baby that's born in the immediate future, till he runs out of the gift that he's giving to these newborn of, I think, $2,000 a child. So they start off with an edge in life and should be put to use for their future education or their college education, or to keep them healthy and well. And he gave that without any strings attached, just as something that is from the bottom of his heart, something that he wants to do, because it's consistent with God told the Jewish people, and indeed all of the human people, all of us, to do tikkun olam, that is, to improve the world that he created. So, as depressing as it is, instead of giving you one idea from my book, Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back, which at the bottom of the cover says, how to be happy no matter what, is a collection of all the great thinkers that I could not dig up because they're all dead, but uncover and identify and quote in this book and describe their view of how to be content in life, how to make a contented life for yourself. And even though we're always very hard on ourselves, very few people, I find, love themselves enough. It's either their parents never told them from the day they're born how special they are and how loved they are, and they never have that view implanted in them. But you should. You're very special. You're the only one in this world that's you. And not only that, but God said in the Old Testament that he created each of us, every human being, in his image. So, and in that sentence alone, you should be proud and hold your head high and love yourself. So from this day on, I want you to love yourself and believe in yourself and believe there's nothing that you would like to get done, providing you have the talent or the necessary capacity to get it done, that you can't get it done. You should feel confident that you're so special you can get anything done that you strive and work hard at to achieve. So from this day forward, I want you to love yourself. Don't wait for others to love you. Love yourself. Appreciate that God loves you. He wouldn't have made you in his image if he didn't love you. And every day that you're alive in this world and all your vital organs function and you get up and your fingers work, you never think about it. You take it for granted. And your eyes work. Till you lose them, you're not even aware. You take it as normal. You're absolutely entitled to it. Tell you one day, if somebody gets cancer or some disease that makes it incapable of having their fingers work or their legs work or their eyes see and appreciate the world, nature and colors and everything, We just don't. So that's for what I say. Each day, you are much happier if you realize how lucky you are and be thankful for the blessings that you have. And you don't think of them as blessings because they're automatic. But when you lose them, you realize if you ever get them back again after a cancer deprives you of all those abilities, or after you go blind or suffer some major accident or disaster that sets you back, really, in some cases, to make you totally dysfunctional, or at least the important your sense of taste and smell and eyesight, seeing, and all the things that we take for granted. If you just appreciated that and realize what a great treasure that is, more than any money, more than billions. There are billionaires that would give you all their money just to be able to recoup those talents, those basic assets. So from this day forward, my best word of advice for you that's encompassed in this book that took me more than 12 years to write. And after 12 years, I was still gathering the information and didn't want to finish till I was sure I had every word of wisdom from every biblical knowledge, all the religions, from all the great philosophers, scholars, from the Greeks to the Romans to the present day geniuses, Einstein and Freud. And when I say count your blessings, people say, what blessings? I don't have any money. I lost my money in the market. That's not your blessing. That's gravy if you get it. And it's not always gravy, because a lot of times people have a big win from almost poverty. They hit as one guy in Rochester, New York, his company, he had a nice company, profitable and everything. It burned down, and he called his insurance agent and told him what happened, and he said, please get me my proceeds from the insurance that I'm covered for my business. An insurance guy told him, I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, but you didn't pay your last premium. And he says, what do you mean I didn't pay? You never asked me. Any time you asked me for a payment, I paid you. He said, well, I find that your last payment wasn't made and you are therefore not covered, and you'll have to absorb that total loss yourself. So he decided he couldn't afford it. He couldn't afford to rebuild his company, not even rebuild all the damage that the fire itself did, much less the records and all the things necessary for continue for him to run the successful business. So he felt he had no choice but give it up. And he decided to leave Rochester for California. He read the thing, Go West, Young Man. That's where all the opportunities are. And on the way, in those days, this is a number of years ago, the Reader's Digest quoted his life story. And he bought a Geiger counter. In those days, people that discovered uranium could sell it to the major companies and make a fortune. So they rarely found anything. But he was traveling through Nevada, past Las Vegas, and he was there a few weeks. Every day he went up in the mountains with a Geiger counter, and nothing hit. The day before he was to leave, the Geiger counter went crazy and indicated that he hit a vein with a lot of uranium. So he went back to the government bureaucracy there and made a claim for that piece of the land. He didn't have to own the land, just for the natural resources, that land that were never going to be exploited and discovered. And they gave him the rights to all the minerals on that land. And he wound up with a large chunk of money, more than he ever dreamed he'd have. So he took that money and, after he made the claim, sold those rights to a major uranium nuclear energy company, and he got tens of millions of dollars. In those days, nobody had $1 billion here, but the equivalent of somebody winning the lottery or 10 lotteries. And he felt it was the biggest blessing from God that he lost his business, and he was now many times richer than he was before his business burned down. So he thought it was a blessing from God. And he went on, after he sold the company, got all those millions, moved to California, bought a mansion. His kids got Rolls Royces and all kind of different advantages of the very, very wealthy. They became a bunch of spoiled brats and adopted some of the local behavior of the young people in high schools those days. They were all on drugs and all kind of fixes. And out of that wealth, his kids got ruined. It turned out not only not to be a blessing, but a curse, because his kids before that were nice and grown up well, and from this money, they became so corrupt and so spoiled that he didn't recognize them anymore to what they used to be. So the point is, money isn't what makes people happy. What makes them happy is appreciating what they have. If you appreciate what you have and you count those blessings every day, you're going to be very happy, I promise you. So love yourself. Know that you have the ability, if you focus on it, decide on some goal you want to achieve in life and work on it. And if you do that, providing you have the initial talent, not like me, I wanted to be Elvis Presley, sing like him, be handsome like him and everything. And God hadn't given me those qualities. My father hired somebody to teach me, a cantor, to sing. And after 2 sessions, the cantor was very nice. He came to see my father. He said, "Hey, stop throwing things at me. My producer's throwing things at me." I said, "Please stop throwing things at me."
At least, yes.
Take back whatever I said if I said something to insult you. Anyway, I'm glad you missed. Otherwise, we would have gone off the air in an emergency. So he was a lovely man. He came and told my father, "Mr. Davidowitz, save your money. I appreciate the large sums of money you pay me each week, and I hate to give it up. But I met with your son 2 weeks in a row, and given his voice and his ear for music and all of his talents, if you put him under my tutelage for 100 years, and I gave him all my time, I couldn't produce what the minimum of what you would expect or hope for. So save your money. Again, I'm reluctant to give it up, but it would be criminal of me to take that money knowing that I couldn't produce anywhere near the results you would hope for, given the large payments you pay me for each segment. That was a real mensch, that guy. A real great cantor. So that was at my end of pursuing the Elvis Presley, because he made me and my father realize there's no way with my talents. There's a lot of things he says your son could be that are worth pursuing, and he has the talents for, but not to be a singer or deal with anything musical. So that should end that story. But I gave up my pursuit of being Elvis Presley, and I pursued other objectives, which initially, again, disappointed me, because if you expect quick results, you get lots of failures before you get the promised land. So as a young man came to, I'm fond of telling a story because it's so common. My high school teachers told us this story. My college professors told us the story when they wanted to stress how important perseverance is and stick-to-itiveness is. And this young man came to Thomas Edison, who developed the electric bulb, one of the greatest advances in human history. Before that, people couldn't stay up late at night and be productive. They had to read by candlelight. That spoiled their eyes. There were no street lights. They had walked around with torches to light the street lamps. It was turned into to be a miracle for mankind. So this young man said, Mr. Edison, how did you stick to this thing? We all learned that you failed 1,000 years. 1,000 times, I mean, not 1,000 years. 1,000 times, and you never gave up. Most of us, we fail once or twice, 3 times the most, and we throw in the towel. And you stuck at it 1,000 times. So Mr. Edison responded, who told you I failed 1,000 times? The young man says, it's common knowledge. We always quote that story, how you failed every time and didn't give up. As I said, our high school teachers repeated that story to encourage us to persevere. Our college professors repeated that story. And even our parents, who were wise enough to know the story, repeated that experience of Edison's. And Edison responded to the young man, young man, whoever told you those stories was wrong. I never failed once. So the young man said, oh, Mr. Edison, I can understand why you don't want to admit failures. Few of us ever want to admit failures. But it's common knowledge. Everybody knows it. So he says, young man, I want to straighten you out. I never failed even once, not once. He said, every time I worked at this project, I was discouraged, and other people considered it a failure. But I know each time I failed, I found out what didn't work. And it moved me one step closer to the ultimate solution. And therefore, I was able to go back at it, even with each failure, because I identified each failure as a success. It was a success in eliminating certain routes that I was taking that was never going to get me where I wanted to go. And I did persevere after each failure because I was encouraged rather than discouraged, because it tells me that didn't work, this didn't work. And I finally got to the answer after 1,000 times, yes, but 1,000 times of successes of learning what didn't work. So that story is one to keep in mind. So number one, start off today, right after this program. First of all, I would advise you to buy this book or get somebody to give it to you as a gift if you don't have the money or can't afford it. If you buy it and you don't find it of great benefit and a real enhancement of your life towards encouragement and happiness, but the word I like instead of happiness, because in the United States we think of happiness after somebody is on drugs for a few hours and is addicted, or they have 12 beers or a pint of vodka. They're happy and laughing and banging each other on the back, and that's not happiness. That's a momentary high, and afterwards, the next day, usually, not even the next day, right after it wears off, you have a hangover and headaches, and it's just very temporal. I'm talking about happiness that gives you contentment and lifts your life every day into the future, unto eternity, perpetually. So when this podcast is over, run out and get this book. It'll encourage you to find something you want to achieve that you would love to achieve, providing you have the basic talent, and we all have some talent for something. And start working on it. And remember, with each failure, if you're working on something that you're really excited to achieve, with each failure, you should go back and find out that failure was one step closer to getting you to achieve the goal. And if you take that attitude, you will be happy and look forward to going back to the project each time you leave it and think you failed. So at the end of this program today, at least wait till the end of the podcast. Don't run out till you enjoy or suffer from the consequences of the depression that this weekly reporting of the tragedies and the disasters and the mass killings and of the high school, kindergarten shootings and pandemics and tsunamis and earthquakes every week. There's unbelievably earthquakes and innumerable disasters. You could cry when they announced how many people were killed in India from a tsunami, or in Bangladesh from a earthquake, or a flood, or a fire in California that killed so many thousands of innocent people and took away their homes, their life savings, and their memorials, their memories. It's so sad, but it's life, and including those tragedies that are personal, that are close to you, where you lose somebody that you love, somebody as close as your parents, or even worse, a child. So you got to figure out how to get on with life and enjoy life and overcome these setbacks and use them as learning experiences that move you to a higher level and closer to the achievement of a contented life. I'm so sure that you're going to enjoy this book and get major benefits. First of all, enjoy it because it has so much wisdom. Not my wisdom, but the wisdom of the ages that I've collected. After 12 years, I was still collecting from all of the great philosophers, religions, preachers. As a matter of fact, the one that set me on my course in this endeavor was at a young age. I used to be depressed all the time. And then I ran across a book by somebody outside of my religion, a Catholic bishop in Manhattan, who wrote a book, The Power of Positive Thinking, in which he taught if you think positively, positive things happen. And I took that as a life lesson, and ever since then, I learned from adversity to move to a higher level of achievement. I turned failure into success. That and another book around the same time by Dale Carnegie, one of the great authors of human behavior. He wrote a book that I've read called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was a great book on winning friends and influence people, on selling yourself, on being successful in life, and how enjoying rich friendships, successful friendships. So those two books, which changed my life and took me out of depression into not immediate happiness, but a sense of a route toward contentment and appreciation of how I could be better and how I could be more content. Not happiness like you are on drugs or on liquor, but happiness from true effort, from investing your own effort to make your life better. So I can testify that you will enjoy this book because all the compliments I get all the time from people unrelated who paid money for the book or who got it as gifts and write to me spontaneously thanking me for all the good ideas it's given them, for all the humor, for the jokes, for the wisdom. And I haven't got one negative. Every one of them, any comments that I got has been uplifting for me and encouraged me that I did the right thing. The problem I had was after 12 years, I had gathered so many of the greatest thinkers and philosophers, the Greeks and the Romans, Aristotle and Plato and Socrates and all of the biblical scholars, all of the biblical teachings, everything that's out there that's readily available, but people never get to it or get lucky enough to find it, or if they did find it, they treat it as a one-time experience and then they forget it. In my case, it changed my life. So I'm ever indebted to Bishop Fulton Sheehan, the bishop who had a very popular church in Manhattan, and to Dale Carnegie, who wrote a book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And those two books encouraged me to spend 12 years of my life trying to convey the same message that helped me to my friends, my family, my children, my neighbors, my fellow countrymen, and all of humanity, in fact. And that's been my goal. Even after 12 years, I was still researching and trying to find new ideas. But my daughter has written several books herself. Rookie Renov said, Dad, I read the book, it's phenomenal. You got to publish it. And I said, Rookie, I'm still finding, it's harder to find, but I still find no ideas. And I want the book to encompass as much of it as I could find. She said, Daddy, publish it, it's phenomenal. People will love it. They'll love the jokes, they'll love the humor, but they'll love the wisdom and advice. So I said, I'm going to cut a few more years. She said, no, publish it. And she helped me. The last 2 years, she had a lot of good input. That's why she's a co-author now. So, and the feedback has been all positive. So much so that if you run out and get this book, and you should do it right after not during the program, but right after the podcast, run out and get it. And if you don't find it really enjoyable from a humor point of view, from a joke point of view, from a knowledge point of view, from an idea point of view, from an advice point of view, send me back your purchase slip and I will send you back double of what you paid for it. That alone should make you happy. That's better than any deal I've ever heard of. Most supplements or drugs on television that are generous say, if you don't find it's beneficial, send back the purchase price. You can even keep the drug. And I said to you the same thing. And they will refund your purchase price. I say the same thing, only better. I will send you double your money back, so right away that should make you happier, as long as you don't run out and buy 50 books, so you can get rich on my promise. And or if you get it a gift, get the purchase slip from the one who gave it to you, and I will refund that money to you. And you can keep the book. So I don't know if you could get a better deal than anywhere in the world. So without further ado, I want to tell you the beginning of being happier and upbeat and more fulfilled in life, uplifted and inspired, is first love yourself. If you depend on others, even parents don't know how to convey that important love. Tell their kids every day, I love you, you're very special, you're going to go far in this world. They don't think it's necessary. But they never had the training from their own parents. So the kids don't know that they're loved, that they have a lot of promise, that they can reach the top of the world. When the parents tell them that, or when a mentor along the way tells them that, somebody they respect, it has an enormous impact. So get a hold of this book as soon as we get off the air. And if you don't find it enormously beneficial, enormously entertaining, then I will send you double your money back and you can keep the book. You can't get a better deal than that. So now, to deal with the issue at hand, I always have to apologize at the beginning of this podcast, because the podcast is designed to report the news of the week, the good news, the bad news, the tragic news. Rarely the good news, because it only reports on the breaking news and the headlines and the things that make the magazine cover once a month, and the ones that interrupt our listening to network television, to radio, to what's it called?
Cable?
Cable.
Yep.
Cable news. Because the breakthrough is usually there was a killing of 40 students at some high school, or worse still, of some teacher and 40 young kids at the kindergarten level, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-olds. Heartbreaking news. If you're normal, it's heartbreaking. And if you're sensitive, it's even more heartbreaking. It's hard not to be sensitive to 3 and 4 years old being mowed down by some lunatic with a gun coming to your class and killing your teacher who can't even protect you, and killing your fellow students and people you love and with every day of your life. So, by the virtue of the news we cover, it's never any good news, because even if somebody donates $100 million to some worthwhile charity, it rarely makes the front page. It's a wonderful gesture, and we say, gee, that's really nice, but it usually goes into the latter section of the newspaper, not the front line. Certainly not, doesn't make breaking news on the channel, on the cable network, or on the magazines for the month. So I start off by apologizing for the depression that this program and dealing with the issues we raise always has on me. I really am depressed when I repeat these stories. It's impossible not to be when you hear, they show you pictures of literally infants being blown up, or people in church praying, doing no harm, innocent civilians getting blown up by some madman, or somebody in a theater takes out a gun without any prior trigger and starts shooting and killing 50, 60 people that can't even defend themselves because all they have is the ticket they bought to the show, to the movie, the torn ticket.
And a bucket of popcorn.
The bucket of popcorn is great feeling, but it doesn't make any headlines unless it gets blown out of their hand as they're getting killed. So, again, without further ado, let me add to your depression by dealing with the news of the week. And I have lucky enough to have with me once again a brilliant young man, graduated with honors from every school, college, university he went to, including two of the greatest graduate colleges, universities, and one of the great Ivy League school, Cornell University, where he received honors and a degree in electrical engineering. And then he went on to get a master's degree in business at my alma mater, the Harvard Business School, the #1 business school in the world. They reject 90% of the applicants. They get so many applicants every year from throughout the world. And then from one of the greatest universities in the world,
Stanford.
Stanford, which is in near San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, that has graduated more billionaires, more high-tech developers that developed. Some of them made two young Jewish Russians, while they were still at Stanford, developed Google. And before they graduated, they were worth more than $1 billion. Since then, many billions of dollars. And one of the essentials we live with, especially before AI, now with AI, we can use that as well. But it's a miracle. Before that, my family bought Encyclopedia Britannica. They paid a ton of money. We were poor and you had to pay like over $1,000. And it didn't have the latest news because it was history of the news. And once a year it came out with a supplement that was updating the year's news somewhat. And that was, you never got current news, you never got, as you do with today, you get it 5 minutes later. Even during the Second World War, we got the news of the war, the 9 o'clock news. There wasn't any all news programs, but 9 o'clock on WOR radio, there was no television in those days when I was young. There was a guy, Gabriel Heater. 9 o'clock, he gave the news of the day, of that day. And it was generally news that was reported of the war's progress or the disasters of the whole week before. Now we get it instantly. The minute it happens, we get it. Who needs it so fast? But anyway, that's the miracle of our times. So again, without further delay, I'm going to introduce Len Carter, my co-host today. As I said, he's a genius. He has honors in every degree, top of his class, and each of these world-class universities. So welcome back.
Thank you, Morty.
Len, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yep.
He gets paid tons of money. When he graduated Harvard Business School, he was hired by the largest consulting firm in the world, McKinsey & Company, that all the top wealthiest corporations, most successful corporations, ask McKinsey for advice. And Len is one of the people they send to give the advice, along with other superstars that work for them. So it's great to have him back.
Thank you.
And you will benefit from his knowledge and wisdom and his input. I benefit enormously as well, except that when he disagrees with me, I want to punch him in the nose because he's always right. Anyway, but I learn a lot from him, as you will, I expect as well. So, Leonard, you want to take off?
So, Schumer, you know, we've touched today. I thought we would talk about something that incorporates a number of things that we've had some conversations in the past about, a little about tariff, a little about foreign policy, a little about power of the president. And it's something that's been in the news the last year, and even during the President Trump's first term, just has only recently kind of resurfaced and become a bigger issue than it has been in the past, and that is the U.S. and Greenland. So where we see President Trump saying he wants the U.S., he wants Greenland to somehow be part of the U.S. So
the 51st state.
Well, we're not sure if
52nd state, 51st.
If he wants it to be.
How many do we have now?
50. Canada's the 51st, he says. So maybe the Greenland has to be 52. But he hasn't said he wants it to be a state. He says
he wants to own it, though.
Somehow. So it could be maybe a territory. You know, the U.S. has a lot of territories, Virgin Island, other places, Puerto Rico territory. Right. So he hasn't specified in detail how, what the relationship would be, but he has said he doesn't want to rent, doesn't want to lease, he wants to own.
Yeah, well, that's right. He makes that clear.
Yes.
I want to make something clear to my audience. Donald Trump has been a great friend of mine who I admired greatly over the years because he's decisive. He's got great ideas. He's, unlike other politicians, I always thought a businessman should be president rather than lawyers. Lawyers become presidents because they go into politics. But they never make decisions. They advise their clients. The clients make the decisions. Often they even, by their vacillation and their hesitation, they cause people to lose deals. So they don't get deals done. Businessmen have to make a decision, one way or the other. So I thought that businessmen... So finally we got around to making Donald Trump a president, surprisingly, because he was not favored to win, and he beat 20 other contestants, all of whom had extensive political experience, especially Jeb Bush, who was favored to win by a long shot because he had an enormous treasury accumulated from donors by then. And his father and his brother had already been president. So he was the front runner. But a lot of other governors and senators and famous, well-known, and here comes Donald along, people thought he was just joking. And then he miraculously kind of won the election. So I want to say one thing about what I admire about him and have always admired by him. He's so energetic and so full of new ideas all the time. He's a real genius, and he gets things done. Most politicians, it winds up in a committee and then it's fumbled around with, restated, and by the time it gets passed, an enormous amount of time has passed, it's hardly recognized from the original bill that was proposed. It's just not the way you could be successful in a business. And so as a matter of fact, I can't think of any other president other than Donald Trump that ever had so many ideas presented so quickly and so forcefully, so energetically as Donald Trump, except FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He got things done. He fought Congress, he fought everybody, and he got most of the good laws we have on the books emanate from that time during the Great Depression, when FDR came in and replaced Herbert Hoover, who led the depression, led the country to a depression, and took a firm stand and made decisions and introduced things. Most of the more right-wing, most of the Republicans who were not as right-wing as some of them are today, they were more reasonable. They got along between the Democrats and the Republicans much better than they do today. But he took the reins, and he had Social Security passed and unemployment insurance passed and payments to farmers who were going broke because the farm products were selling at such a low price that he gave them subsidies so they wouldn't lose their farms and could continue to produce the necessary food for our nation. And he introduced so many worthwhile things. Till this day, a major part of our welfare in the best sense of the word, of bills that help those at the bottom and even those like farmers that were not necessarily at the bottom, but were in danger of losing their farms because the prices had dropped so. And ever since then, they've gotten subsidies even during times when they've hit new record highs. So farming in this country has been very rewarding, and we've continued those subsidies despite that the farm prices have skyrocketed. We didn't cancel. We didn't do as they do today, make sunset bills that after a certain number of time, they mature and wear out. And to get renewed or to go back on the books, the Congress has to meet and approve them. And they've had 2 stalemates in recent years over this kind of thing, where Congress couldn't agree to support certain subsidies that were critical to those at the lowest end of society. So he's been the most amazing achiever of any president other than FDR. I can't think of another president that did as much.
Okay, so let's look at Greenland. So big picture first, big question first. Do you think that Greenland should somehow be part of the U.S.? And if so, what part should that be, and how do we effectuate that goal?
Well, this is an idea that Trump has because he says Greenland is so critical to the safety of the United States because both the Russians and the Chinese are operating. It's the farthest north country in the world.
Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. Because I don't agree with that with one simple reason. We had many military of our own military stationed there. Very
Still
enormous.
do.
Yeah, no, but we pulled out of a lot of them. But they make it available till this day.
Mm-hmm.
They say, you want to put as many as you like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to own it.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark says, which does control it,
Mm-hmm.
and Greenland citizens, which are cooperative on that fact, put all your military stations here. We have no objection to support NATO, fine. But for some reason, he got the idea he wants to own it. I guess he was always in real estate, and he felt that the way to get a property is to buy it.
You don't want to lease, you don't want to rent, you want to own.
You want to. So since it's open to us, the price is estimated, if we bought it, to be $70 billion.
700.
700 billion, was that?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's
700 billion.
That's significant.
Which is a nice chunk of cash.
Right.
And Greenland says, keep your money.
Right.
We want our independence. You don't have to give us any money. You could put all your military outlets here.
Yep.
To protect against China and Russia or any other anti-NATO countries. And we have no objection. So there's no reason for him to alienate, as he has, Denmark, which has always been our number one. They were the first country in the world to support us against England when we broke away from England. And in every war since, they've been an ally.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no need to do that.
Well, I mean, what you're saying is similar to the views of about 80% of the country.
Yeah.
In a poll that I saw recently.
So as I said, I love Donald, and I love his fight for issues that he believes in, and his ability to get things done. He's not wishy-washy as other politicians tend to be. He's decisive, and he sticks with his promises, and most of them he does get done.
So the question becomes then, if there is a large opposition to that plan, including most of the country here, as well as virtually every country outside of here as well. How do you see this playing out? I mean, Trump's now saying he wants to impose tariffs on countries that don't support this plan. Do you think tariffs should be used as a way to leverage foreign policy? We'll see how the Supreme Court rules on that. How do you see? There's an upcoming meeting in Switzerland where they're going to be discussing this, but it doesn't seem like, unless there's something other than what Trump's been saying, seems to be heading toward quite a disagreement and potential conflict? How do you see it playing out?
I want to be totally forthright and honest with my listeners. And that is, I've always loved Donald. I loved his energy. I loved his excitement. I love his creativity. I once introduced him. I was asked to introduce him at an event for an organization that Dwight Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, launched to honor, what was that?
Freedom's Foundation.
The Freedom's Foundation, to honor the Battle of Valley Forge. And they were honoring, I was on the board of the Freedom Foundation, and they asked me if I'd come to Philadelphia and introduce Donald Trump. He was the guest of honor. So I said I'd be delighted to do it. I came and I introduced him and I raved about him, that he's so creative and he gets things done. A bunch of different contractors and builders dealt with the swimming area, pool area in Central Park.
The rink, ice skating rink.
Was it the ice skating?
Yeah.
And couldn't get it done. They tried, they worked on it, they failed. And Donald Trump came in and in no time at all got it done. So I told the audience how effective, how creative he was. And I raved about him, about all the creative projects he was doing throughout New York and throughout the world. And I really admired that. I was so impressed because I saw the projects that he was doing. And I became even more enamored of Trump, of Donald, when he announced that he adopted, or he believed in the prophecy of the Old Testament, that those who treat the Jews well, God will favor with good results. And he adopted that and believed that, and he's treated Israel better than any other president before. Every president before him, going back about 6 or 7 presidents, was during their campaign for running president, they promised, and Congress had already approved it, that they would make Jerusalem the capital of Israel, which Israel desperately desired, instead of Tel Aviv being the capital. And they all, during their campaigns, their platform said, each of these guys that ran for president, the 6 or 7 presidents before Trump, said they would make Jerusalem the capital. And then when they won and achieved their presidency, when they were pushed by some segment of the Jewish population or the Israelis to please make good on that promise, they always said, now is not the right time. That was their answer perennially. When he got in, he did it right away. So he acted on that belief that those who treat the Jewish religion, the Jewish people well, will be rewarded by God. And there's no question he's been rewarded, because there's never been any president that was indicted even once that could keep the presidency or win the presidency. And he's been indicted 90 times, and he hasn't faced one even, what do you call it when you're kicked out?
Impeachment?
One successful impeachment, and certainly not one criminal trial yet.
Well, he was impeached twice, but he was acquitted twice.
I mean, but he wasn't actually...
He wasn't removed. Yeah.
He wasn't impeached.
He wasn't.
They may call it impeached.
Yeah.
I'm saying the goal of impeachment is to remove the guy.
He was
not
acquitted
removed
by the Senate, yes,
right.
Twice.
So he was blessed because no one with one indictment or one disaster would do, Nixon
Yep.
did nothing of that magnitude to go to jail. And he was, he got off 90 times.
So Trump talks about maybe taking Greenland the hard way.
Yeah.
What do you think the reaction of Denmark would be or other NATO countries if
NATO is totally against it.
But what's the reaction? What do they do if the U.S. if Trump tries to take it the hard way? What do you think they do?
They said it would break up NATO. And NATO
would they send troops to fight the U.S.? Who sends troops? What do you think happens?
If Denmark went to war against the United States?
No, do you think that would happen? I mean, if Trump sends troops in to Greenland to take it the hard way.
I don't know what they do.
Yeah,
I know Denmark knows they can't beat the United States.
Yep.
But NATO might back them because...
under Article 5, they would have obligations.
Yeah, and also it's a precedent.
Yes.
Next, he could say, I want to take Rome.
Correct.
I want to take Italy.
Right. So we're about out of time, but let's just one other question.
We're out of time?
Yeah.
We're on 5 minutes. When you're having fun, time flies.
Yeah. So you just said something interesting. It sets a precedent. So do you think are there any circumstances where the U.S. or some other country would have a right, or don't focus your own, it's hooked to your coat, would have the justification?
Yeah, we did have.
For national security reasons.
When Pearl Harbor hit the United States.
No, to take another nation.
We did. We took Japan. We took Germany.
But we didn't overtake it and make it part of our country the way that he wants to do with Greenland.
We took it.
Right.
Put in our men to run it.
Right.
For 8 years.
But that's not what Trump's saying to do with Greenland. He wants it to be part of the United States.
Yeah, well.
So, because of national security reasons. So is that ever justified?
If it was as obvious as December 7th, 1941, I would back him on that. We held no bars. We insisted we were killing them, and we said, we're not letting you go unless we get unconditional surrender. And that by meaning we take over the country, we run it till we're satisfied that it's safe to deal with you.
Okay. All right. So, again, thank you for a very interesting discussion. Yeah.
Oh, my God. We're having fun if time flies. Anyway, it was great being with you again. I love you. Remember to take my advice. Love yourself. God loves you. He made you in his image. And love yourself and have the confidence that you can make anything happen that you determine in your mind that you're going to make happen, as long as it's feasible and legal. I love you. And again, get a copy of this book. It'll change your life. It'll change your kid's life, your loved ones' lives, your neighbor's life. It'll have such an enormous impact. It'll bring a sense of contentment that most people never achieve because they don't focus as this book does. So please do, not for me. I don't even keep any of the funds that I collect from the sale. It all goes to charity. So God bless you. Have a wonderful week. Every day should be better than the day before for the rest of your life, perpetually until eternity. Bye. See you next